don't choose my life. What do you want?
Hey, how's it going? Bonnie Violet here. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And in case you don't know where you are, you have found yourself at Dragon Spirituality with Kween Bee Velvet. This Kween Bee, it will be my 56th drag artist that I've interviewed to talk about their spirituality. I'm really excited. We've had this on the books for a few weeks now, and so I'm really excited to have an opportunity to get to know Kween Bee a little bit more and to introduce her to you a little bit more. For folks who've never been to one of these before, it is live streamed, but we also use the recording for audio podcast, as well as this will live on YouTube. So if you do end up, wanting to share this with a friend, or maybe you have to leave early, you can check it out later as well. Also, you're more than welcome to engage with us in the comments if you join us in the live stream. If you have questions that you would like to ask Kween Bee, or you'd like me to ask Kween Bee, or anything else, you're more than welcome to put in the comments. Been a little under the weather, so my voice is has a little bit more bass than normal. And I have a little bit of medicine head, but I'm super stoked to be here this evening, and I'm glad that you all were able to join us. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Kween Bee up on the screen. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. So let me get on my spectacles.
For sure. You look amazing.
Thank you. You do too.
Thanks. I feel like I threw everything on today.
No, but it's okay because I love the headpiece.
Thank you. That's, it drags that way sometimes,
You're welcome.
Grab what's in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's throw it on. Yes. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. My name is Kween Bee Velvet. I'm from Pocatello, Idaho, and I have been doing drag for about 3 years. So that's the basic rundown of me.
Awesome. Great. Well, and I know you've watched a few of these before, and if folks have too, I always kind of just go right in there and talk about your childhood. So I would love to hear a little bit about what you learned about spirituality or were taught, any sort of experience around spirituality as a young person.
Yeah. So I grew up in this weird position of being LDS, but also being excluded from the church because of some of the things my family did. My dad grew up LDS, but then he kind of left it for a little bit. But then he had kids and decided, okay, I want this. So he started making me and my brother go to church. He wouldn't go to church. He would make us go to church, which already kind of a bit of a red flag. Immediately, I knew that we were completely different from the other people in the church. We were often excluded, very obviously spoken to differently in the LDS church. Like, I'm not sure if it was like intentional or is that unintentional, like just rudeness overall, but that's something I experienced at like literally age 6. I was like, okay, this ain't the tea, man. So I was kind of fed up with it. Eventually, I was doing Boy Scouts, and it was miserable for me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't kind of want to do the things that they wanted me to do. I didn't want to go camping. I didn't want to go fishing. I didn't want to learn to tie knots. I wanted to dance and be myself. But I was made fun of for kind of the fruity things I did.
Gotcha.
Eventually, I told my dad that I wanted to quit the church before I quit Scouts, because Scouts at least still had some friends outside of school. And I had my friends outside of school, but it was nice to have that other set of friends that were still kind of, nice to me. Right. But he was not happy when I told him I wanted to leave church, even though he was non-practicing. He was smoking cigarettes, which we lived right across the street from the church, so they didn't like us. A lot of the LDS kids weren't allowed to come to our house just because of simple stuff like that.
For folks who are in Idaho, because I think I don't think because the Boy Scouts and Mormons are very interlocked.
Yes. Correct? So they recently changed it because of how interlocked they were, which Boy Scouts should be completely religion free. And I think anyone should be able to join Boy Scouts if they believe they are able to. But when I was doing Boy Scouts, which was back in like 2010s, early then, it was very LDS. They even taught you in their very fundamental LDS things. It was stuff like that. And like even growing up, I think like my mom's been working in the restaurant that she worked at for a long time, and they kind of looked down on her for working in a restaurant. It's like it's a lot of things that kind of built up, and I knew I did not belong there. And it's kind of sad that as a 6-year-old I could recognize like this is not normal. These people are not treating me like.
Did it feel that way as far as like the social aspects or kind of the religion aspects, or did that all feel kind of the same?
For the religion, I was just like, and there's nothing wrong with being LDS, but in my experience, I was just like, this shit cannot be real. Like, you cannot tell me that I have to follow all these rules in order to appease a God who is somewhat all loving, but he does not love. Back then, it was Black people. Apparently, like the LDS church has a lot of history with racism, but especially with gay people. And then they kind of like flip-flop with their stance on it. They're like, oh, you can be gay, but it's very strange. And I knew immediately when I was hearing this stuff, I was like, that's not okay, because my grandparents are gay. I have 2 gay grandpas, which and that's something my mom taught. I think my mom taught us differently, for sure. My mom did not grow up Mormon. There's a lot of aspects to my life. So my mom did not grow up Mormon. She grew up kind of lightly Catholic, could believe in that. But, she supported me when I wanted to leave Boy Scout. She supported me when I wanted to leave the church. But it's just weird. Like, it was weird. My mom taught us that gay people were good because her dads were gay. And, we knew that it was okay, but then I was being told something differently. So I knew it was kind of bullshit. That's kind of, I was like, okay, well, I believe my mom more than this book. So.
And you had mentioned in your bio that you had grown up LDS, but then you kind of started creating your own spirituality.
Yes.
When did that begin for you?
It honestly began for me in like middle school, when I kind of learned about spirituality in the sense of actually talking to spirits, which we'll go deep into that. And I believe like it was weird. I started doing that, and I started talking to spirits and how they can help guide me to answers in life.
So like through prayer, or
not exactly through prayer. I do it through meditation. Okay. So I literally will sit in my room. I'll light incense. If I want music, I'll light music. And I think meditation is however you feel you want to meditate. If you want to meditate to like rock, go ahead, like whatever gets you in that mind. And I focus on one thing I really want to lean in on when I meditate, because sometimes meditating, I think it's very releasing, but it can be draining sometimes. Like if I really can't get something out of my head when I'm meditating, it can be really draining. And I didn't start meditating until freshman year of high school, when I was really into my spirituality. And the weird thing is about my spirituality is it's a mishmash. There's a lot I believe. There's some things in like the Christian religion that I'm like, okay, I believe that. I think that could definitely be things. There are things in Buddhism and Hindu and quite literally probably every religion. I think there's truth to everything.
And have you kind of just like read books or learned about things, watched videos, or have you like any leaders or guides, I guess?
So it was all up until I think high school videos, which, like it was kind of hard because I understood what I believed, and I was like, okay, I like the idea of this, but I didn't know how to practice it yet.
Right.
And it didn't take until high school when I met a girl named Jenna, and she was kind of like this like spooky, but like kind of preppy girl who was like, you don't have to like practice it a certain way. Why don't you just practice it in a way that makes you happy? And like, why don't you just like believe you want what you want to? And it kind of like clicked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do what I want then. I'm going to believe what I want. I'm going to meditate how I want. I'm going to put my energy into what I want. And that's really where I found a lot of happiness.
And is that kind of the outcome? Yeah. Like what is kind of the outcome of your spirituality?
I think now it's created a lot of happiness for me, but throughout high school, when I first discovered it, it was kind of a game of choosing what felt good to me and what didn't. So it was a little bit confused. Like, I considered myself atheist at one point. I guess agnostic at one point, and now I like to joke that I follow Baduism because I love me some Miss Erica Badu.
Oh, okay.
So I
At
think
first I was like, what?
yes, it's the name of her first album, my favorite album all time. And you know, she talks about a lot of things in her songs that kind of reach out to me, like kind of just moving on, even though things are hard. You got to move on.
Right.
And you know, reaching into her music, like listening to music that speaks to me, is like, I think, another thing in high school that helped me out, like realize what made me happy. Because it was so weird. I was going back and forth from different things I wanted to practice or wanted to begin practicing. I didn't like it, and then it would kind of mentally drain me and put me in a bad like mental position, I guess.
And are you still kind of searching now, or have you landed somewhere?
Oh, I'm always searching. I think religion is like the coolest thing. How you know, somehow like we've all organized, or a group of people have organized to create a system of beliefs that like it's crazy. Like there's so many different religions. There are so many different ideas. There's even like cults could be seen as a form of religion. I know a very large one near my town. So
yeah, I think I mean, it's so interesting. I've always been what I would say like kind of a seeker too. Like sometimes I haven't always fit in like some of the community settings or whatever, the churches or, you know, whatever, but I've always kind of tried to seek. And I think for me, one of the things I've noticed as I get older is that like it's important for me to claim that I already know I have a connection with God, and I already know I have a connection with you, and you know, all this sort of stuff. And so it's like I kind of already have this spirituality that's difficult for me to put words to, because it feels like when I talk about it, it doesn't fully speak to it.
Yes.
But the challenge has been to find like other people who get it the way I get it, or wanting to have kind of community around it. I love I kind of love getting together in a group and singing songs or reading stuff to one another, or, you know, talking, like just being real with one another. And so, which in a lot of ways is like church, but I think I've struggled sometimes with kind of like, how do I translate what I think I know
Yes.
into being in connect, like to use it as a connection with other people.
You know, I think I completely agree with that. I think in a way, like religion is almost like kind of above us to understand as people. Like in the end, we really do not know what's out there until we die. We don't know if there's nothing. We don't. We genuinely have no clue. But I think, you know, I think it's a lot funner to believe that I could be reincarnated and have a different life, which that's a big thing I believe in, is reincarnation.
Yeah. Well, that when you were talking, it made me think of, I remember hearing something, an idea of like, did God make us, or did we make God? In the sense of like us as people, did we create? Because I know like, I think a lot of people tend to create, like my dad used to always tell me that church was a crutch for me. And so like in that idea, like there was moments when I was like, oh, I need God because all you people suck. You know, like I can't trust you people, you know, I can't trust other people. So I have to kind of like seek out something else. And I wouldn't say that's my experience now, but I definitely feel like I've, you know, it's felt that way at times.
Yeah. And the one thing I can say about going to church young is that it did like bring in a sense of community, even though that community did not want me, but it showed how community could work, and that, you know, there are communities that work. And
did you feel that way just at church, or was there other environments as well?
Oh Lord, I think school, because at school, the same people who were at church were at school, and they were most likely they were the popular kids. Not most likely, they were always the popular kids, and I was always treated differently because I did not want to play like football with all the other boys. I wanted to go play like it's like Scooby Doo. I remember us playing Scooby Doo, and the girls love me, of course. Like, you know, like I like to say, the Mormons love faggots because they're there to entertain their wives. Because it's true. It's very true.
And
So I think school was rough, and high school is kind of where I just stopped giving a shit because I started focusing on myself. The last 2 weeks of senior year, there was a group of guys walking behind me, and they were calling me faggot, calling me dick sucker, you know, everything which I'm like, faggot's not offensive to me, but don't call me a dick sucker in school. Like, girl, don't be immature. And then they spit at me. I turned around and I like gave them a look. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're really these people were probably freshmen, but there was a group of them. So I was like, okay, well, I can either ignore them, keep walking, or I can stand up for myself and not be able to take on 3 of them. So
right. And when did you graduate high school?
I graduated 2022 from Pocatello High School.
Okay, so you've been out for about a year and some change, or?
Yeah, I've been out of high school for about a year. I've been, you know, doing good. It's boring outside of high school.
What'd you say?
It's boring outside of high school.
Oh,
now I have to deal with all this local girl drama.
Yeah, it's like a whole new high school, right? a whole new set of people and attitudes and all that sort of stuff. When did
drag queens are really
right? I was gonna say, when did drag come into your life? When was your first experience with drag?
So obviously, like, Drag Race, like everyone likes to say, but it didn't interest me until I was working. I was working at my first job in Pocatello. It's a little kind of mom and pop diner called Elmer's, and Callie G actually came in during the day. It was a Saturday, and she came in full mug, but still boy clothes. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this, like, snatched. And I told her, I was like, I don't know if she remembers this. I'm gonna ask her after this, but I was like, oh my gosh, like, you inspire me. She came back that night, full drag. She was in this beautiful dress, emerald green dress. This almost like Russian doll hair, like little ringlets. Like, I know the exact dress and picture on Instagram. Like, point it out in a second. She came back in, and I was like, oh, she does drag. And the cook, who was always at Charlie's and part of the gay scene, was like, oh, that's Callie G. And after I saw Callie, I was like, you know what? This might be fun. So I started dabbling into makeup. This was freshman year. Sophomore year is when I started, like, actually getting into drag, putting on the wigs. I made my first pair of hip pads then. They're still serving me now. And then junior year is when I started performing around whenever I could, local gigs. Junior year is when 2020 hit, though. So good time for me to practice my makeup skills, but I didn't get too much performing practice. And then senior year, I was performing all the time. I met my drag mother, Tanner, and I was like, you know what? I really want to perform, but there's just no place for me. And she's like, well, let's make a place. Let's make a series of shows. And we created the House of Shenanigans, and we now have Shenanigans Productions. We have our own little production thing going on.
Yeah.
I brought it.
Do you want to, like, just speak, like, so why did you have to create kind of your own lane, if you will?
Yeah. So we in southeastern Idaho, we don't really have a lot of places for kings and queens to perform. We have Charlie's, and they're 21 plus venue bar. I'm 19 years old, so can't be going in there, and that's basically the reason why. And it's given the opportunity for other queer artists to kind of blossom out. Like, one of my best friends from high school who unfortunately passed last year. This is actually her hat right here that I'm wearing, and like, she was able to come out, and we held the 2022 junior Mr. and Miss Southeastern Idaho Gay Pride, and we held that title until she passed away in November.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yes.
So what is it about drag that you love? Assuming you love it.
Ooh, I think it's just so badass that I can, like, quite literally have the free will to do whatever I want. Like, I can wear a wig, I can dance around to whatever I want, and I can inspire to people to kind of have that free, like, let's just have fun. Like we like I said, we really don't know what's after death. So why not make this life that we remember really, really good and just have fun?
Right. How would you say drag relates to your spirituality?
I think it's made me a stronger person for other people in my community. I've noticed like a lot of, especially in Pocatello, recently, like kind of people kind of shut down when drag is like yelled at. We have a lot of people going after us just because we're queens. I have people in my DMs calling me a pedophile. And I think really channeling and meditating and finding like happy energy and things that make me happy, it can literally be like anything, has made me a happier person and made me able to overcome adversity and help other people overcome adversity. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is being a rock in my community.
Yeah. So it sounds like your spirituality helps you kind of deal with other people not being so kind.
Yeah. Back in March, April, it was really, really hard for me.
Are you
sorry.
Are you banging something or playing with a card?
Oh my gosh, I am. I fidget.
That's okay. We can hear. Wait, it's just we can hear it. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know. But what was the question? Sorry, I lost it.
What was the question? I was
Let's
asking.
Just start a new one.
I know, right? Sorry about that. It was
okay.
Yeah, getting to be a lot. So I just wanted to. I didn't know if other people were tripping. So I think I was asked. Oh, I think we were talking about your spirituality and drag.
Yes.
Tapping into it.
Overall, I think it's just helped me be a rock in my community. Like, a lot of people come to me to talk about the issues they're having, whether it be within our own community, like with the other queens, because it's made me it's made me a very unbiased person, because I've learned to not judge people for what they believe, as I've been judged for what I believe. It's not fair for me to judge other people. Like, even though I kind of have a weird relationship with LDS people, I don't judge them for what they believe in, because what they believe in is totally valid and it's theirs to believe in.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe your drag?
My drag, I like to just say it's like fun. I really do whatever I want. I like to do a lot of disco numbers. It's hard to like categorize my drag. I'm such like, I think I'm very versatile. I like to get grungy and down and dirty, but I love me some disco numbers. I love some R&B. I think my everyday drag, the style is very 90s girl group, like SWV, TLC, and Vogue, kind of that style. I kind of like that, like hip hop, effortless streetwear.
Nice. I saw a comment from
yes.
Kelly G says, I'm glad you found your spot in the drag scene since being inspired by a green queen walking into a diner. Know that one day you'll even unintentionally give someone else that ring of keys moment.
Oh, March and April. Yes. Thank you, Callie. I really appreciate that. You've been a big help in my drag, and I got some pieces, some Callie G pieces in my wardrobe that she's given me. She's helped me out a lot. She's like a second drag mother, I like to think. So,
and the
March and April.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. So March and April, I was going through a really, really hard, like kind of like mental crisis. I had a bunch of like unfortunate things happen to me, like after another. My parents are still, even though they've been divorced for almost 10 years, are still going to court things, and I was going to have to appear for that. And it was really hard for me to, I'm not even going to go into it because it's a whole other can of worms that is crazy, but I was in such a bad place, and I was ready to like just take my truck and drive off the edge of a cliff. And it really took me grounding myself at my job, I was having a full-on panic attack, and it took one of my store managers, thank you, Lisa, if you're watching this, sitting me down and helping me breathe. And it really made me think, like, this is not like I can work through this. And I did. And kind of grounding myself and finding the enjoyment in things that make me happy again, and making sure like I focus on what makes me happy, and kind of like saying fuck you to everyone for a moment because I mattered in that moment, really helped me.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been able to really kind of put yourself first. I'm glad that you're in a better spot now.
Thank you. I think I've been in probably the best spot I've been since high school.
Nice. And what would you say? What would you say to that? You know how like Miss Callie G was talking about how Callie G inspired you. What would you say to that person that you may inspire?
I just hope I inspire people. That's my biggest thing with my drag. I just want people to think either, you know, I like that drag queen, or I want to be like that drag queen, or that drag queen makes me want to be a drag queen, or makes me want to do drag. Because I definitely, everything I do, there's thought put into it. I don't do anything without thinking, but I still also do what I want. But there's some thought into it, you know. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, what would you say to somebody who is wanting to get into drag?
I would say do it. I would say don't compare yourself to anyone on Drag Race. I think Drag Race is great, but I think it has ruined a lot of perceptions of what drag really is, or drag could be. And powder your face. Powder your face. Powder it.
Powder's the thing, huh?
Powder is the thing.
How was it navigating being or doing drag? It sounds like you were doing drag, like learning drag while you were still in high school. How was it navigating that?
I think for me, I did not want to end up being one of those Instagram tween queens who is rude to everybody, thinks they're better than everyone else, really snobby. I did not want to be one of those things. So I really took time into learning actual, like, what drag culture is about, especially like pageant etiquette and the pageant system. I've learned all about that. I think kind of steering myself away from that Drag Race viewpoint, which I love Drag Race. I hope to be on Drag Race one day. I think kind of skewing myself from Drag Race and putting myself within like drag as a whole really helped me.
Knowing that
I think it'll help a lot of other queens.
Yeah. Kind of being indifferent. Because I think it can seem like there's one narrative, one way, one thing you can do in drag.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to lie. Like it's like discouraged me sometimes, like being like, wow, that queen is 21 and they're on Drag Race and look at me at 19. But then I realized like the accomplishments I have made in drag are way more important to me than anything could be. Like I've made some incredible accomplishments in drag.
What would you say is one of your favorite moments? Share with us one of your favorite moments in drag.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a heartfelt moment. It's actually a drama-filled moment. So it makes me laugh now, but I was so mad when it happened. Or I don't even remember when the show was, but my drag mother put on a show, and it was we were gonna have basically like a lip sync for your life, like a little lip sync smackdown. 4 queens, 3 lip syncs, blah 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 blah. Me and the first queen went. Me and Kween Bee Velvet, my sister. Me and her went. We lip synced to Spice Girls by Wannabe. I put everything in my lips. I did everything in that lip sync. I watched her. I'm pretty sure I even still won that. Still think I won that lip sync. All the judges were like, "Oh, I don't know who won." Like they weren't sure. Like it was kind of on the edge. I actually two of the judges did cater towards me. They're like, "I don't know. I think Queen had the words, which." Words are more important than dancing. And also decided that she wanted to choose my sister to win the lip sync. I was not having that. So in front of the whole audience, the whole crowd, I was like, rigor mortis. I was like, this is not going to happen. I was like, oh, so you are not going to do this. I was like, And then the other two went. Oh yeah, see, and I should have kept my mouth shut and talked to her after. I still say that she shouldn't have rigged the thing, which I get why she was doing it, but she shouldn't have rigged the thing. Then the two kings went. They got to lip sync to 3 different songs. The audience got to choose their favorite, and I think she was doing this to like make me even more mad. I think she was doing this to get my nerve. I think it's the funniest thing ever. After that happened, I was like, not gonna happen. I was like, you're gonna have them lip sync to 3 songs, and I'm gonna lip sync to 1 song, and it was a huge thing. It was a yelling match pretty much in front of the audience until I was like, I'm not going to talk anymore. And then after the show, it's so funny to me now because we were just being petty, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I normally am so good at holding my tongue, but who knows? I think it's the funniest thing. That's my favorite story in drag is that whole fight. Cause that would have been, if other people were there, if the other queens, they would have loved it. Now it's kind of like a thing. Like if you were there, you saw me and Oso yelling match. It was I think it's so funny now, but it was intense.
Yeah, it sounds like it was. Did you feel like you were putting on a show, or was you just
I was putting on a show. I was literally probably best show I've ever had up to that point. I was like, oh my gosh, these numbers have gone by great. I did all my death drops. I knew all my words. And I was basically, another reason I was mad, I was basically hosting the show at that point because Oso was helping DJ. So I was basically hosting that show, being intermission, being the joke girl. So I was already like, okay, I'm like, Osa's going to give me a break if I do mess up. But no, she wanted...
And you'd mentioned that you weren't able to perform at the bars. So where is it that you are performing?
Yeah, so you can catch me and the House of Shenanigans usually at College Market for any all ages shows. We love to have them there. It's a small coffee shop and it's a fun little place, and there's like a raised area that it's fun. It's the best place. It's brunch without the brunch and the mimosas. So
got you.
It's fun.
And so it's just like a locally owned coffee shop.
Just a locally owned coffee shop. The runner Abby, she's been so amazing and supportive towards our community. She's gone through a lot too. She was getting calls back in November when we had some elections going on. She was getting calls from people because we had a back to show all ages show, and she got death threats. I'm pretty sure. I know my drag mother did. I got some DMs calling me a pedophile. It was intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that stuff seems to be on the up and up. What other the reason why I ask you that question too is just I think there probably are folks who might come across this who are kind of like yourself, where there wasn't maybe a venue, maybe you wanted to do drag, but and I know for me, like I'm a drag artist who I can do drag in the bars and stuff, but a lot of the time when I'm doing drag, I'm not in a bar. And so what other places outside of a coffee house do you think drag
outside? Sorry, I just had a blank. But outside of the coffee house, outside of College Market, you can usually catch us literally wherever. We've been having shows at Sixes. We had them at Old Town Playhouse in Old Town Pocatello. We had them at Sarah Brewery. I think the best way is to check my Instagram at Kween Bee _Velvet to see where I'm hosting a show next. Usually it's about once every month. That's the best place because right now venues, some of them don't want to have me or at least have drag queens because of how controversial it is, which I understand it. It's tough, but I understand why.
Yeah. So are most of the other drag artists that you perform with closer to your age as well, or?
It's very varied, which is very good. I like how I said that. It's mostly my family. So we got in the House of Shenanigans, we got Oso Aqua Velvet, the mother. We got Giovanni Velvet, Kirby Velvet. There's a lot of Velvets now. We have like a little dynasty going on, and usually they're around the ages. At least my siblings are around my age, like 19, 20. And then the other queens I perform with are usually in the 30, 25 range. And then my favorite, I love performing with older queens. Love it. Because it's my favorite. I get a kick out of them.
And how is it having a drag family? And what does your drag family, like, what does that mean to you?
For me, my drag family is kind of the support I can find on things I can't ask like my actual family. I'm very blessed that like my mom is very prominent in my life and I talk to her all the time. But there are things like, I got to talk to my sisters about, and I got to talk to my drag mama about. So I think having that community of like, I could talk about the raunchy stuff with them. And
So
I can't,
not just about your drag, but about
not just about my drag.
important life stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also we borrow stuff from each other. So that's another thing. Borrow blessings. We stolen a few of Osa's wigs. I actually have a wig of hers that I recently threw away because I messed up the lace. She's probably finding this out now. Sorry, girl. I threw away that wig that I borrowed a few months ago. It's gone.
Right. And how did you get into the family?
So I actually was talking to Oso on Grindr, and we were talking, and then because I already knew Oso because Oso was doing drag, and I already showed interest in performing. And then we actually got talking, and she's like, "So do you want to actually perform?" And that's when it was like, "Yeah, but I can't." She's like, "Okay, well, let's make a space for you to perform."
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something for folks too. If people are looking to start drag or get into drag, that it's helpful to sometimes just reach out to somebody who has either a drag style or maybe they're just local or, just, I think oftentimes families really kind of help, I think they can help you kind of like cut through some of those growing pains a little bit easier, maybe.
I completely agree. And like anyone who's listening to this in Southeastern Idaho, like I will absolutely book you in a show. Like that's my biggest thing is I want to give other young performers a place to perform and grow as a performer and evolve as a performer.
Okay. And I put up the Instagram already, but I'll put it up again for folks if you want to connect with Kween Bee.
Yes.
There we go. As well as if you're watching later or listening, you can also find it in the description. So go ahead.
Oh, just another thing I was thinking about that kind of ties into my spirituality is I am a very big believer in the power of manifestation. Recently, my mom's actually been big into it, which is really nice. And it's helped her a lot too. But another advice of drag queens is maybe this will resonate with you. You're not going to get what you want unless you want it. So I say, ask those questions. Ask if you can have those gigs. Just ask, because worst thing that can happen is they can say no.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you've got to kind of just create your own, and not create your own lane, but like, you have to put yourself out there and you have to ask people. I mean, I think oftentimes, even as a producer who produces shows and stuff, I love to hear from people saying, I'd like to be in your show, or, things like that. So, but I think sometimes though, we think that we have to either be asked, or that must be for like, I'm not good enough or whatever, sort of situations. But sometimes the difference between an artist that's getting booked and an artist is not is that they asked.
Yeah. Like that's the biggest thing that I notice. Like, I will always book you if you tell me you're thinking about it, I'll ask you. But if you come make the initiative, it shows me that you want to really do it. I had at my recent show, I had a performer reach out to me and they were like, "Hey, I really want to do this gig. I heard you're throwing a show." And I was like, "Oh, you're in. Give me 2 songs. Give them to me by the end of the week. You're good."
Nice. We are down to about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to share something maybe that we haven't gotten to that you would like to talk about, or if you want to just speak more to something.
I'm trying to think. There's like a lot that.
And if folks have questions, in the
go ahead, ask questions.
Feel free to ask them now too.
I think my biggest thing is what I'm working on is where my career is going to go now. I feel like I've kind of stabilized myself in my community in Southeastern Idaho. I have a great support group. I'm support for others. I think right now it's like, what's my next step in figuring that out? I'm not really sure, which I'm okay with that. I really am.
Right. It just takes time sometimes, Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that that you reached out to me and offered to be a part of this. I've been really excited to get to know you more and Looks like we got a comment. And Callie G says, is there any part of Mormonism that you still cling to? If so, why?
Huh. You know, they got, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the Mormon girl dress where it's like basically a turtleneck dress and it's like a giant t-shirt kind of, but it's like a turtleneck. And they're usually like grandma, like couch print. Like they're not like cute, but I love those dresses. Maybe that's part of Mormonism. There's not, obviously I kind of believe like kind of some of the basic fundamental Christian beliefs. Like I 100% believe that Jesus was a person, and I think he was very influential in his time, and I think he changed the world for sure.
Gotcha.
The big J up there.
Right. I think that's a first for me, that like the thing you kept of Mormonism is the fashion.
Oh yeah. They you know, those LDS ladies have some very great outfits and some great hair too, you know. Those southern ladies got some competition.
Dai Shaddai says thank you, and glad you could join us.
Thank you so much.
And Kylie says amazing. I love that.
I love you, girl.
Dress emoji.
See, well, they kind of look like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And for folks who are maybe new to this, this wasn't necessarily part of the Idaho Drag is Divine series that took place earlier in the year. But as you might have saw in the beginning of this video, I did show some clips from other interviews with other drag artists in Idaho specifically, including Miss Callie G. So do check out the links in the description to hear their interviews as well. And if you are interested in being involved in some way, you know, just reach out to me, let me know. I also want to invite folks to the Drag and Spirituality Summit, which is taking place in San Francisco in October 13th, 14th, and 15th of this year, and Toronto next year. And basically it's just, it's kind of like a spiritual drag con. It's kind of like a drag con, but spiritual. And we can't call it a con because, you know, trademark stuff. But so if you're interested, you know, check out the links. They are a sponsor of this particular conversation this evening. And thank you again so very, very much.
Thank you. Like for real.
I look forward to meeting you in real life.
Yes.
And maybe being in a show with you someday.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care, and everyone have a really good night.
Have a good night. Bye.